Hello guys, good day everyone. My name is Udam Joshua Chukudi Ebube, also known as JC Mobile. So this is a basic HTML and CSS course. We'll be touching the basics of HTML and CSS alone, the major part of it that you need to know, and you can be able to use it to quickly build a web page or a portfolio file. Now this you see on my screen here is what a practical HTML looks like. This is what a practical HTML file looks like. So this HTML file you're looking at here now can be interpreted by a web browser, be it Chrome, be it Google, or be it Opera Mini or any other browser you use on your device. You can use Firefox, you can use Chrome, you can use any of them, any web browser you have on your mobile device. You can use to interpret this HTML file you're seeing here into a functional web page like you are seeing here. So what you are seeing here now is exactly what is in this file here. So to be able to make it, to be able to see this file here, like what you saw on the web page, you will need a web browser to be able to do this. And the web browser I am using here is this Microsoft Edge to be able to view this HTML file on the web browser. So by the end of this course, you yourself should be able to understand how this file transforms to becoming this web page. Thank you guys. So today we're going to be looking into text editors. Text editors are the applications which are required to be installed on your system if you want to write HTML codes or any other code in programming, in computer programming. You need what we call text editors. So we have several text editors that can be used for carrying out this job. You can use our Notepad, which is a pre-installed application that comes with all Windows systems. It's in our system already. The Notepad is in our system already. Any Windows system you have, it has a Notepad. If you just search in Notepad in this search engine down here, you can see this is a Notepad for a Windows. For Windows, this is a Notepad. This Notepad now can be used in writing HTML codes. You see, this Notepad now you can use it to write HTML codes and display them on the Windows or something like this. You can use it to write HTML codes like this. You can use them to write HTML code and view them on the internet. So this is Notepad. You can use Notepad for writing HTML codes or editing pre-written HTML codes. So another one is what we call Sublime Text. Sublime Text is a text editor which you can install from the internet. You can install it from the internet. You can just go into any browser you're using, go in there and search for Sublime Text, and you can install it and use it for text edit or use it for writing HTML codes. Then we also have what we call Text Edit. That one is just like the Notepad I previously showed you, but it's for Mac OS, for MacBooks, not for Windows. The way we have Notepad in Windows, that's how we have Text Edit in MacBooks. So you can simply text in Sublime Text into this search engine here, and it's going to bring out this application called Sublime Text. So you can simply download it and use it for your HTML, editing HTML. And the last one I'm going to be showing you is Visual Studio Code. This is the one I use for everything I do about coding and programming. So VS Code is, I would say it's one of the best text editor you can use for writing HTML codes because it has a lot of advantages. It has a lot of things that can make your coding journey easy and make you code better and faster. So I'll be showing you a little bit of how you can use VS Code. Now if you install Visual Studio Code on your system, if you install Visual Studio Code on your system and you open it, it's going to welcome you with a page Alright, for this course we'll be using Visual Studio Code for everything we're going to be doing on this basic course. So let's see how this Visual Studio Code works. Should in case you install it on your own system, because this will be a requirement for following up these classes. So if you install the VS Code on your system, you open it up. When you open up the VS Code, at first you won't have anything on the interface like this. It's going to be blank. So it's left for you to create a folder, create a file, and other stuff. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that on VS Code. So first of all, you let it load. Once it has loaded like this, you now create a new folder where you be using for every work you are doing. So just like we created here now, HTML and CSS courses. So creating a folder is not difficult. All you have to do is just, once you open up this panel here, you simply come to this side and click on more actions, click on new folder, and you can type in the name of the new folder you want. So we've done that already, HTML and CSS. So inside a folder, you also have to create what we call a file. Now a file can be a HTML file, or a CSS file, or a JavaScript file, or any other file in that folder that you are using. So here we're going to be creating a HTML file because that's the course we are taking. So we say a new file, and we can say HTML, or we can just use any name. You can say index.html. Now this .html is what we call an extension. This extension is important because if you don't add an extension, this Visual Studio Code won't be able to identify what type of file you are trying to create. So if you want to create a CSS file to be anything.css, if it's JavaScript, it's anything.javascript, just like that. So we are creating a HTML file now, index.html. So in this index.html, you can go ahead and write HTML code. You can go ahead and write HTML code like this. This one good thing about Visual Studio Code. If you write the opening tag, it uses hand and put a closing tag for you. We'll talk about tags and elements in the next course. For now, I'm just trying to show you around how Visual Studio Code work. So up to this extent, I hope you understand what you'll be following what I'm doing. So this is just a simple paragraph tag. You can write good. You can write anything you want to write. Let's say for example, we want to create a CSS file. We'll write a new file. You can write anything .css, just like that. Enter. Now we have a CSS. Now this place. Now you can write CSS code in this file. In this file you can write HTML code. In this file you can write CSS code. Thank you. Alright, welcome guys. Welcome again to our basic web development course. So we'll be looking into HTML elements today. So in a nutshell, we can say elements are the building blocks of a HTML page. They are like the basics of HTML. The thing that makes up our HTML pages is the HTML elements. An element is anything from a beginning tag and the contents of the tag to the closing tag. When I say tags are just what you are seeing on this page here now. It's like this HTML you're seeing here. This HTML you're seeing here is a tag. This head you're seeing here is a tag. This meta you're seeing here is a tag. And this body you're seeing here is a tag. H1 is a tag. So all these things are called HTML tags. And a tag is anything from the beginning to the ending of the tag and anything contained inside the tag. So these tags now is what most of these tags, that's the tags between these body elements now. This opening body element, this opening tag, and this closing tag. Anything between these two, opening and closing tag, is what will be displayed on our web server. If we open this with a live server, this is one of the advantages of using VS Code. That's what we call live server on the VS Code. You can be seeing whatever you're doing on the web page. You can be working on one hand and be seeing whatever you're working on the other hand. That's the advantage of using VS Code. So as we can see here now, we have an opening tag for our body and our closing tag. And the content of this body element now is this H1 element inside of it. Now H1 simply means a header. We can also have H2, we can have H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. We can have normal header, HTML, all these things are tags. So if we say a H2 now and write, maybe say boy inside of there, and we save it with Ctrl S to save our work. And if we open our live server, we're going to see it there, boy. Are you seeing it? If you put another tag now, let's say H3, and we write, let's say girl, and we save it. It's come as girl. So you see, the higher you go in these headers, the smaller the number. So this is what we call a head tag. And we have another tag we call a paragraph tag. It is depicted with P, paragraph tag. So you can write, let's say, I'm good, and you save Ctrl S, you see I'm good. This is a paragraph tag. There are different tags in HTML, many of them. I will send a link where you can see as many tags as you need. These tags are things that makes up the content of a HTML page. You know, when you see web pages online, those things you're seeing on the web pages, those written things are being written with HTML, and they are being written with all these elements that I am mentioning here. We also have elements we call empty elements. When we say empty element, they simply means that they have an opening tag, but they don't necessarily have a closing tag, and they don't have a content inside of them. They're just a tag on their own. An example of an empty tag is the breakage tag. We have what we call BR. Okay, we have the BR tag. What this BR tag simply does is it breaks a line. For example, now say I'm good. You can also write, you can say I'm better, and let's say I'm best. So what this BR tag actually does is that instead of writing this I'm good, I'm better, I'm best together, it is going to break this line and put this I'm better and I'm best in another line. So if we save this now and check on the live server, we're going to see what happened here. I'm good, and on the next line it writes I'm better and I'm best. But if you don't put that BR tag, if you don't put this BR tag here and just save it this way, you see what will happen there. Everything will be written together. See, I'm good, I'm better, I'm best. So that's another type of tag, an empty tag that doesn't have a closing tag. All it has is an opening tag. And if you study these tags closely, you see that the difference between the opening and the closing tag is this forward slash. You can see this forward slash it shows that is a closing tag whenever you're writing a HTML element. So these are the elements in HTML and many more. This doc type is also I will call it an element, but it actually shows that this document, that everything we are doing here is a HTML document. Now within this second HTML you're seeing here is where everything you'll be writing, everything you'll be doing on this project, everything you'll be doing on this page must be between this HTML opening tag and this HTML closing tag. Whatever you're doing will be there. Whenever you want to import a link on the header section, you can import links and do many other things on these things. We'll talk about this header link. We'll talk about this header section later. So anything you're doing in HTML will be between the opening HTML tag and the closing HTML tag. But not everything that you see within this HTML tag will be displayed on the web page. The only things that will be displayed on the web page is things that are between this opening body and then closing body tags. As you can see, H1, H2, H3, P. These are the things you can see on this side when you're typing. Only the things within this body tags. These are what we call HTML elements. They are the things that makes up the visual part of your HTML document or your web page when building a web page using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So that's all about that's all we'll be talking about in HTML. So see you guys on the next class. Thank you. Welcome back to our HTML and CSS basic course. So today we'll be looking into HTML attributes. All HTML elements, like we've learned before, all these are HTML elements, H1, H2, H3, H4 elements. Now all these elements can have what we call attributes, and these attributes provide additional information about the elements. And attributes are always specified in the starting tags of an element. For example, in this H1 now, if we want to apply an attribute to this H1, it is going to be in this starting tag, the opening tag of this H1. That's where elements are being specified. That's where attributes are being specified. And these attributes comes in pairs, like name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. So now, if we want to add an attribute to this H1 now, we can add a style attribute. Alright, this style, or we can say color. Now the attribute here now is the name of the attribute is the style, and the value we are trying to put in is the color. So let's say, for example, blue. I think that we've added an attribute to this H1 element now. Now if you save this and check it out on our live server, so if you look at it now, you see that the color of the H1, which is this good here, has turned to blue. Now you can also do that for H2, H3, or any other element. We want to change an attribute. Let's say we want to change the style for this paragraph, and then we are going to change let's add the background color. The background color of aquamarine to this paragraph. If we save it and load it on this page here, we're going to see that our paragraph has gotten the attributes of the background color. We change the background color to aquamarine. So this is how attributes work. Another attribute I want us to look at is that of a link. So the href attribute. So we call the href attribute, and it is being added to the a tag. Now this a tag now defines a hyperlink. This a tag defines a hyperlink, and as you can see, as we've been talking about tags, this tag now has an opening tag, which is this, and it also has a closing tag, which is this. And this element here now can be given an attribute of href. What this href simply means is it specifies where the URL of the page that the link we're going to put in here now goes to. For example, if I want to put in a link of my web page, let's say let's say https what I'm trying to put now is a link to my web page, www.globalworld.com.ng. Alright, so if we put a link like this now, and maybe in the content of this element you can write something like go to my web page. Go to my web page. Now if we save this link now and check it on our live server, we're going to see, we're going to have something like this. Go to my web page. Now if you click on this, go to my web page now, it's going to take us, it's going to open a new document now on this web page. And the document is going to open now will be my web page. Clicking on it now, you're going to see it's going to open. It's going to open my web page. So this thing was able to be achieved using the href attribute on the A element. The A element is going to put in a link on your web page. As you can see now, it's opened my web page. When I tapped on, go to my web page. So these are what we call attributes. Attributes provide an additional information of our elements. And then another attribute I would like us to look at. That's the attributes that we use in our image when putting images on our web page. Let's say, for example, the image tag. As you can see, this image tag now has two attributes in it. It has two attributes, and it doesn't have a closing tag, nor does it has a content in the element. All this tag has now is this attributes in it. The attribute, the source attribute, and the alternate attribute. Now what this source attribute does now is it determines where you can get the image you want to post on your web pages, and this alternate text determines a text that can be written in case the image doesn't load due to network problem or any other problem that the web page might encounter, and if the image that you put here doesn't show, the alternate text don't show. Let me show you what I'm talking about. For example, now I have an image folder here now that has different images. Let's say, for example, I want to display these pictures, this piece.jpg. I want to display it on that our web page. So the source I'm going to put in here now is going to be this image folder now. If I just put a forward slash, it's going to bring out these several images. So I can just type in this pics.jpg, and I can put an alternate text here. Let's say my picture. Let's save this and check it out on our. As you can see, this particular image now is now displayed on our web page. You see, it is very large because we haven't resized it. We haven't resized this image. Then we can also add some attributes in resizing. We can also add some attributes to resize this image we have here now. Let's say, for example, now we've added a source of the image and it's got the image. We've added an alternative. Let me show you where this alternative attribute can work now. Let's say, for example, now this pics now, I made a mistake and I didn't include the S for some reasons, and I saved it. Now if you check now, you're going to see the picture is no longer going to be there. What you're going to see there is my picture. That's the alternate text I added to the attribute, to the alternate attribute. That's what you're going to see there, because the image was not able to be displayed due to the error I made in not adding the S. So if we put back the S, save this file, check it out. Check it out here. You're going to see the image is back to its place. So with this now, let's say we want to resize this image to fit in there. So we can use the attribute, the width and height attribute. The width, let's say the width, let's say 200 pixels, and let's say the height, let's say it's also 200 pixels. Now pixels is the unit of a measurement in web pages. Just like in our real life, we use centimeter, we use meters, we use miles, we use different measurement units. Now on web pages like this, the unit of measurement we use is called pixels. So these pixels determine how large and how wide an image or any other thing can be. So let's save this and check it out. You see our image has resized to be this small. Now it now fits on the page. You can also further reduce it by changing this 200 pixels to, let's say, 100 pixels. Save this with Ctrl S and check it again. See, it further goes down. So this is attributes works. It provides an additional details about an element, just like we've seen here. These paragraph elements now, the additional details, text, and in this A element, the href attributes points us to the web page we want to go to. That's what the href attribute. That's the additional information this attribute gives us about this A element. And this image element, the source attribute points us to the folder where we can get the image we need, and also an alternative text in case our image do not display, and also the width and height attributes are also embedded into this image element to further describe our image here of how big it should be or how small it should be. So this is what attribute does to an element. See you guys in the next class. Thank you very much. So what we're going to be looking at now is what we call the HTML structures. So when we say structure, it simply means everything that you're seeing on the page here, the way they are being placed, and in the order in which they are being placed. So what we're going to do, we are going to be taking each and every one of these elements you're looking on this page now, and be looking into them one after the other, which one should come first and which one should come last. So if we wipe our page now, and say for example you have a project you want to do on your HTML file, you created a folder like we have here, HTML CSS course. You created a file, a HTML file, just like our good.html. So when you come to this page, what are you going to write on this page? So on this page, this actually is what you are going to write. You can either cram it and have it in your memory, or you can use the shortcut to get to it. So the first thing that should be on the HTML page tag is the declaration of a document type. So what we mean by that is we're going to say doc type, and our document type is HTML. So this doc type now is an element, as I taught you before. It's an element, and the element now is this document type that's showing us that this document is an HTML element. So after declaring our document type, which is HTML, the next thing we do is to create a HTML tag. So this HTML tag now is where everything we'll be working on will be in. You see, we have the opening and the closing tag of the HTML, the opening and the closing. So after our HTML tag, the next one that follows is the head tag. This head tag is where all our metadata will be embedded in. The head tag, and we close it. It's where all our metadata will be embedded in. Everything that should be on the head section of the HTML document. After our head, the next this thing will have, our title and every other thing will be inside the head. You can have our title, our title tag, which indicates the title you're going to see on your web page, and many other tags that are in the head section. Then we will have the body section, which we show with our body tag, opening body and the closing body tag. So practically these are the major things we do have on our HTML, and this is the structure of the HTML. Every HTML document should have a document declaration type, the HTML type, the HTML tag, the head tag, the body tag. These are the major ones, and inside the body tag we have the title tag, which we can put anything we want to put as the title of our document. HTML or HTML, right? And the body tag, you can now input all your header, all your heads, the paragraphs, the navigation links, everything that you want to show on your web page will be in this body. Let's just put one paragraph there and close it and say it's nice. So you can save this and open it with Lightsaber. So this is the basic way of doing this. You can either write it this way, one after the other, or you can follow the shortcut which I talked about in the beginning. And this one now is using your own what you've crammed or what you've learned about HTML to map out the structures this way.
Or alternatively, we can use the shortcut, as I said before. The shortcut is more convenient and easy to use. You don't have to cram the structures all together. So this shortcut is just by typing the exclamation sign on the first line there and pressing enter, and everything you need, the structure will be aligned on itself. So all you have to do is now go into the body section and start coding in what you want to be on your web page. So that's just all about the structures. Thank you guys. See you in the next class.
Now we'll be looking at how to add CSS file to a HTML file. Just like we have here now, we have this little project here now, which we will be using to illustrate how to add CSS file to a HTML file. So this is our CSS file on its own. For that page I just showed you now, this is the CSS file that helps making it look good as it is. Now while this is our HTML file. Now let's see what this page looks like now without this HTML file, without this CSS file. Let's save this and go back to the web page. Are you seeing how the page looks like now without a CSS? This is how it looks like without a CSS. This is that list you're seeing there, and this is the picture and all that. So we'll be looking at the three ways in which we can add CSS to make our file look a bit better and cooler and palatable to the eyes. Alright, so the first way I'll be touching here is the external way of adding CSS, which is the original way this file is in now. As you can see, this our CSS file is named good.css, and to add it externally, we will add it to the head section of this our HTML page. As you can see here, we added it using the link HTML tag in the head section. This head section here, we added this link element with these attributes, the relationship of this file, which is the style sheet, and the head of our good.css. So this is how to add file externally. This good.css is an external CSS file that is on its own. We simply add it to this HTML file by adding it at the head section of this page. So that's how to add a CSS externally. Now let's look at the second one, to add it internally. Now if you want to add the CSS file internally, what we're going to do is, in this same head section, we're going to add a style. We're going to add a style element and simply copy everything that we have in this CSS file here. Copy it. Copy everything in this with Ctrl C and simply put it internally in this style here. Now in this way, now we have both our CSS and HTML file in one place. Now if we remove this link we added before and save this file, we're going to see that it is still going to work the same way it was working when it was external. You see, everything is still that same way it is, no changes. We've moved from external CSS to internal CSS. So this internal CSS now simply means that both our CSS file and our HTML file will be on the same file. This is good.html. We have both the CSS here and the HTML here, and both of them are, and this CSS is being added to this page using these style elements and putting it in the head section, and it's going to work the same way it works when we put it in an external CSS file. So that's the second way. Now the third way of adding a style to a HTML file is by adding it inline. What we mean by inline now, what I'm going to do now is all these styles that are added to this separate element, just like our ordered list now. We have a background color of this, and we have a 20 pixel padding added to this ordered list. If you want to add it inline now, what we simply do is we'll come to the ordered list itself. In the head tag, I'm going to add a style. I want to add a style. I want to add, like what we had there, we had background. We had a background color of, what do we have in that ordered list? We have a background color of this. Or let's just simply copy this line here and paste it in that place. Now ordered list. We paste it and save it. Now you see that even if we delete this background now from this ordered list in the internal file and save and check in our live server, we're going to see that it is still going to have that same style added to it. You see that background color is still the same thing, simply because we added it
in line. Added in line with the ordered list in our HTML here. As you can see, this particular line here, we added the style and the background color of this. That's why it's still there, even if we remove the background color from this ordered list here. Even if we delete it from here, it will still be the same. So not have any changes on our page because we've added it in line. So these are the three ways we can add CSS to our project. You can either add it externally, or add it internally, or add it in line.
Let's look into this CSS syntax and selectors. Now when we talk about CSS syntax, it simply means the way a CSS file actually looks, like from the selector to the declaration of the CSS values. In our declaration, we have the property and the value, like we have here now. This height is the property and the value is 200 pixels. This width is the property and the value is 200 pixels, just like that. CSS usually have a property and the value of that property after the selector. So this is what we call selectors. All these things that are outside this curly bracket, while the ones inside the curly bracket are the properties and the value of the properties. So when we talk about selectors, there are three different ways we can select a HTML file to style it in an external CSS file. I like using external CSS file because it makes the work look organized and in different files. So let's say, for example, now this our div now. This our div. We want to style this div now. We are styling this particular one using a class name project. And when you want to style a class, you use what we call a dot project. The name of the class is project. So when you are styling a class, you use the dot. You use the dot selector. It's called the dot selector. So this dot project now means that what we are styling now is this particular div that we have here that has this class of project and everything in the div. This image and this h1 are inside of this div. So when we are styling this project, what we are styling is the image and the h1 that is inside of it using the div. Another styling selector we have is the ID selector. The first one we talked about is class selector. This one is the ID selector. So when selecting an ID selector, we use the hash selector. Like what we have here now is hash my h1. Now, if we look for this that has the ID of my h1, you can see it here now. this h1 now, I gave it an ID of my h1. So when I'm styling that my h1, what I'm styling particularly is just this h1 that is here. We have another h1 here, but that styling won't affect this one because it doesn't have this ID of my h1. That's what we call ID selector. So let's also look into the third selector type, which is selecting the element itself. Like in this case now, this image, I selected this image on its own. We didn't give it an ID, we didn't give it a class. It's a direct styling of this image element. This image element you are seeing here now. We are styling this image element separately on its own in the CSS file. That's why we select the image directly. This one is ordered list, OL. We are styling this ordered list on its own. We are styling this unordered list on its own, just like we have in this HTML file. We have the ordered list, we have the unordered list. That's the meaning of UL and OL. This OL and UL, they are elements in HTML. So styling this OL and this UL separately in the CSS file. As you can see, by styling it, you give it a background of this color and the 20 pixel padding. The unordered list, you give it the background of this color and the padding of 20 pixel. The same thing. So these are OL and our UL. We style them directly without using a class or an ID. While in this case we use an ID to style this my h1, and in this case we use a class to style this .project. And as we said, we can add a class, which is an attribute, and an ID, which is also an attribute, to the head section, to the opening tag of any element we want to style. Just like we are styling this div, we add this class to the opening tag. Look at the closing tag of this div. Look at the closing tag here. This OL, this is the opening and the closing tag. We are styling this other list on this one. So we select it directly in the CSS file. So that's what CSS syntax means. CSS syntax simply tells us how the CSS file looks like. The selector, the property and its value. The CSS selectors. We have the direct selector of selecting the element itself. We have the dot selector that's selecting the class. And we have the ID selector, which is selecting the ID given to it. Thank you.
Hello guys, good morning and welcome to HTML Basic CSS and HTML course once again. This is the last and the summary of everything we've been doing so far. If you've made it this far, congratulations to you. You are one of the very few people who finishes what they started. And at this point of this class, you can now review this file I showed you at the beginning and told you that you should be able to understand how it came about at the end of this course. So if you've gone through this series of videos I've been posting and series of videos about this course up to this extent, then you should be able to view this file differently now from the way you viewed it at the beginning of this course. So now you can now understand most of the things you are seeing in this video right here. You can now understand most of the things here than the way it was before. Now you now understand what HTML is. You now know what our editor is. You know how we write this code we write here, where we write it in our VS Code. Now you understand what these elements are, all these things that are in this greater than less than sign. You understand what elements means now, and you understand what the attributes also means. You can now look at this page and now you've seen a lot of elements with their attributes. You can understand how this page structure is being nested, how the HTML comes first, followed by the head, followed by the body and other stuff. You understand the part of this code here that will be viewed on the web page here. You understand how we transferred it, how this was able to be something like this on the web page. You understand how we use a CSS file externally to style this page internally. You understand how to add the CSS, the way we added it externally, internally, or inline. You understand that. You understand the CSS syntax comprising of the selector and the declaration, which contains the property and its value. You From that, you also understand what our CSS selector is. You understand how we selected some things using the element itself, and how we selected some things using the dot selector, and how we selected some using the hash selector, which is the ID selector, and the class selector. You understand all that. So that's all we did in this class. We only learned what HTML editors is, what the elements, the attributes, the page structure of HTML. We introduced CSS and how to add CSS, CSS syntax, CSS selector. That was all we did. And if you understand it so far, you can go through this file here and now be able to understand what is actually going on here. But as we all know, to get more knowledge about something, you have to make research on your own and learn on your own also. So this is all we had to do here. Thank you guys for making it this far into this video. I love you all. Bye.